Hey guys, tonight we're going to take a slow, meandering journey back in time, not to the grand pyramids or the bustling marketplaces, but to a much more intimate and perhaps squishier part of ancient Egyptian daily life. Imagine, if you will, the warm, thick air of an Egyptian morning, the sun just beginning to bake the fertile soil, and the gentle lapping of the Nile River calling to you. You stand on its bank, the soft, dark earth squishing between your toes, and you're about to take a bath. Not in a porcelain tub with fragrant bubbles. Oh no, you're about to immerse yourself in the very essence of the Nile. It's mud. You probably won't survive this level of earthy immersion in your modern life without a tetanus shot. But tonight we're just imagining, and that's perfectly safe. So, before you get comfortable, take a moment to like the video and subscribe, but only if you genuinely enjoy what I do here. And if you're listening, let me know where you are in the world and what time it is for you. It's always fascinating to think about how we're all drifting off to sleep in different corners of this big, beautiful planet. Now, dim the lights, maybe turn on a fan for that soft background hum, and let's ease into tonight's journey together. You're standing on the banks of the Nile, the very lifeline of ancient Egypt. The sun, a burgeoning orb of orange and gold, is just kissing the eastern horizon, painting the sky with hues of peach and rose. The air, even at this early hour, carries a subtle warmth, a promise of the heat to come, but right now, it's merely balmy and comforting. A gentle breeze, barely a whisper, rustles the papyrus reeds that line the river's edge, creating a soft, almost imperceptible sighing sound. The river itself is a vast, calm expanse, its surface a shimmering mirror reflecting the nascent light. It carries with it the stories of millennia, a slow, steady pulse that has nurtured a civilization for thousands of years. And today it's nurturing you in a way you might not expect. You shift your weight, feeling the fine, almost powdery dust of the dry earth beneath your feet give way to a richer, darker, slightly damp soil closer to the water's edge. This isn't just any dirt. This is the famed black silt of the Nile, deposited by the annual inundation, rich with nutrients that brought life to the fields and, as we're about to discover, perhaps a peculiar kind of revitalization to the human body. You've heard whispers, perhaps from your neighbor, or seen the serene faces of those returning from their morning ritual, that there's something special about a Nile bath, something more than just getting clean. As you step closer, the ground becomes noticeably softer, yielding under your bare soles. It's cool at first, a surprising contrast to the warming air. Then it becomes a delightful squish, almost like stepping into a perfectly ripe, overfilled pastry, but, earthy. This mud, this glorious, life-giving mud, is the very foundation of Egyptian agriculture, and in a less commonly discussed aspect, their personal hygiene. Imagine trying to explain this concept to your modern self. Yes, darling, I'm off to bathe in the mud. It's truly invigorating. Your inner voice might be screaming, "No, please, anything but that." But here in ancient Egypt, it's just normal. You watch as a few early risers, just like you, approach the river. They carry simple tools, perhaps a rough linen cloth, a small, unadorned jar of scented oil, not for washing, but for moisturizing. There are no fancy loofahs or elaborate soaps. The river, in its wisdom, provides everything. One woman, her movements graceful and unhurried, stoops by the bank, gathering handfuls of the dark, rich mud. She smears it across her arms, her legs, her torso, with an almost meditative rhythm. It's not about scrubbing vigorously. It's about application, about letting the mud do its work. Historians still argue whether the primary purpose of these mud applications was purely hygienic, a form of exfoliation, or if there was a deeper, almost spiritual connection to the fertile earth. Was it a way of absorbing the very essence of life and prosperity that the Nile brought? Perhaps it was a bit of both. You, standing there, feel a curious pull, a sense of wanting to understand this ancient practice not just intellectually, but viscerally. The mud, you notice, isn't just plain dirt. It has a particular texture, fine and smooth, almost like clay, but with a slight gritty quality that suggests embedded minerals. When it dries, it would likely pull at the skin, creating a sensation that might be described as a gentle tightening. A natural face mask, if you will, but for your entire body. And without the exorbitant salon prices. Imagine telling your friends you got a full-body mud mask from the comfort of a riverbank for free. They'd probably think you've finally gone off the deep end. As you consider this, you notice a small, rather plump frog, camouflaged perfectly against the muddy bank, blinking slowly at you. It seems utterly unperturbed by the human activity, content in its earthy abode. It's a reminder that you're in a living, breathing ecosystem, not just a static landscape. The sounds of the morning are beginning to fill the air. The distant bray of a donkey, the chirping of unseen birds in the reeds, the soft murmur of human voices. All of it blends into a gentle symphony, a backdrop to your impending mud bath. You take a deep breath, the air surprisingly fresh, carrying the faint, earthy scent of damp soil and river water. It's a clean smell, unadulterated by modern pollutants. And it's this purity that hints at the very essence of the ancient Egyptian connection to their environment. They lived with the river on the river and, as we're exploring tonight, even in the river. It was their everything. From their food to their transportation, to their very concept of time, the Nile dictated it all. And personal hygiene was no exception. You might be thinking, but what about crocodiles? Or hippos? Aren't these rivers rather perilous? And yes, you'd be absolutely right to think that. The ancient Egyptians were intimately familiar with the dangers of their environment. However, their relationship with the Nile was one of careful respect and practical knowledge. They knew the safer spots, the times of day when larger, more dangerous creatures were less active, and they often bathed in groups, keeping a watchful eye. This wasn't a reckless plunge into the unknown. It was a calculated, daily ritual performed with generations of acquired wisdom. So, as you step even closer, the soft, cool mud reaching up to your ankles, you feel a peculiar sense of calm washing over you. The worries of your modern life, the endless to-do lists, the digital distractions, all begin to recede, replaced by the simple, immediate sensation of the earth beneath your feet and the promise of a unique cleanse. It's a moment of pure, unadulterated presence, something that feels increasingly rare in our fast-paced world. The sun is now a little higher, casting longer shadows from the reeds onto the water. The air is warming further, and the mud, as you step deeper, feels almost comforting in its coolness. You see others now, emerging from the water, their skin gleaming with a fresh, dewy look, a light film of the dried silt still clinging to them like a second skin. They look refreshed, invigorated, ready to face the day's labors. There's a subtle glow about them, a quiet confidence that only comes from being utterly at peace with your surroundings. This practice, while perhaps alien to us, was a foundational element of their routine. Not just for the sake of cleanliness, but for the inherent connection it offered to the life-giving force that sustained their civilization. It was a daily act of communion, a tangible link to the fertility and abundance that the Nile provided. And it was, in its own peculiar way, deeply relaxing. No harsh chemicals, no complicated procedures, just you, the river, and the earth. A truly natural spa experience, millennia before the concept of a spa even existed. Though you might draw the line at applying crocodile dung as sunscreen, which was a real thing some ancient Egyptians reportedly used. Definitely something to be thankful for modern alternatives for. As the sun continues its slow ascent, its rays now piercing through the remaining morning mist, you begin to understand the mud's allure. It's more than just a substance. It's a feeling, an experience. You bend down, the rich, dark soil cool and surprisingly pliable under your fingers. It molds easily, not gritty or coarse, but smooth, almost velvety, despite its earthy origins. You scoop up a handful, letting it ooze between your fingers, feeling its subtle weight. It's dense, yet it spreads with remarkable ease. This isn't just dirt. This is concentrated life, the very essence of the Nile's annual bounty. The appeal isn't just aesthetic or tactile. It's deeply practical. Imagine living in a hot, arid climate where dust is a constant companion, clinging to everything. Water, while abundant in the Nile, still required effort to draw and carry for a full body wash. But here, the river itself offers a full body treatment, no bucket required. The mud, when applied and allowed to dry, would effectively lift away dirt, sweat, and the inevitable fine layer of sand that permeated everything. It's a natural cleanser, a gentle exfoliant, and perhaps even a moisturizer all in one package. No need for complex concoctions or expensive imports. The Nile provided, and it was free. You can almost hear your ancient Egyptian self thinking, "Score!" Another excellent reason to love the river. You watch as others begin to apply the mud more liberally. They don't just dab it on. They slather it, coating their limbs, chests, and backs in thick layers. It's a full-body embrace of the earth. The color transforms them from sun-kissed to an almost uniform deep brown, like living statues sculpted from the very riverbank. It's a slightly comical sight, perhaps, if you were viewing it through modern eyes, a group of people voluntarily coating themselves in goo. But here, it's a dignified ritual, a testament to their connection with the land. You might even catch a glimpse of someone meticulously applying a thin layer to their face, creating a very rustic, very ancient mud mask. Forget the spa day, this is the spa millennium. Historians still argue whether certain types of Nile mud had specific healing properties attributed to them, beyond general cleanliness. Was it merely the physical act of exfoliation, or did they believe the minerals in the silt itself possessed therapeutic benefits for skin ailments or muscle aches? Perhaps it was a combination of practical observation and a touch of folk wisdom. After all, if something feels good and seems to work, why question it too much? As you prepare to apply your own first handful, you notice the subtle variations in the mud itself. Nearer the water's edge, it's wetter, more liquid, easily spreadable. Further up, where the sun has had more time to bake, it's thicker, denser, requiring a bit more effort to scoop. This variance offers a natural choice for different preferences. A thin, quick rinse for some, a thick, deeply enveloping layer for others. It's a bespoke bathing experience, compliments of Mother Nature. The first contact of the mud on your skin is cool and smooth. You start with an arm, spreading a generous amount from your wrist to your shoulder. It feels oddly refreshing, a cool balm against the increasing warmth of the air. The sensation is almost like a very thick, very cold lotion. As you work it in, you can feel the tiny, almost imperceptible grains of silt, performing a gentle exfoliation. It's not harsh or scratchy, but a subtle polishing, as if the river itself is helping to slough away the days or nights' accumulation. You extend the application to your legs, then your torso. It's surprisingly easy to cover yourself. The mud clings readily, forming an even layer that quickly begins to dry in the sun. As it dries, you feel a gentle tightening sensation, a subtle pulling on the skin. It's not uncomfortable. Rather, it feels invigorating, like your skin is being gently lifted and refreshed. This tightening is a clear indicator that the mud is indeed doing its work, drawing out impurities and leaving the skin feeling taut and clean. You imagine feeling incredibly smooth afterwards, like a freshly polished stone, ready to face the day's activities. One quirky tidbit you might ponder as you're covered head to toe in this earthy concoction is that some ancient Egyptian texts refer to various earths and clays used for medicinal purposes. While not explicitly about bathing mud, it suggests a broader understanding and appreciation for the properties of different soils. It wouldn't be a stretch to imagine that they saw this rich Nile mud as beneficial not just for growing crops, but for nourishing the body's largest organ, the skin. It's like a giant, natural skincare routine, predating Sephora by several millennia. As the mud begins to set, you stand still for a moment, letting the sun warm the layer on your skin. The surrounding sounds of the riverbank become more prominent. The gentle murmur of the water, the rustling of the papyrus, the distant calls of water birds, it all blends into a soothing, almost hypnotic soundtrack. It's a stark contrast to the modern world's cacophony of sirens and traffic. Here, the world moves at the pace of the river, slow and deliberate. It's the perfect antidote to any lingering anxieties, a kind of primal therapy session. You might even find yourself closing your eyes, feeling the warmth of the sun on your mud-clad skin, listening to the gentle hum of ancient life around you. There's a profound sense of connection, a feeling of being utterly grounded in this moment, in this place. It's not just a bath. It's an experience, a meditation, a way of resetting your mind and body before the demands of the day begin. And the best part? No fancy bath bombs required, just good old-fashioned Nile silt. Though, perhaps, if you were feeling particularly luxurious, you might mix in a few crushed herbs for an extra aromatic kick. But that's probably just your modern brain trying to complicate things. The mud, in its natural glory, is quite enough. With your body now generously coated in the rich, dark mud, a new phase of this ancient ritual begins. The preparation for the rinse. You don't just jump back into the river, oh no. This is a process, a deliberate act of cleansing that has its own gentle rhythm. You look around at others who are a few steps ahead of you in this ancient spa treatment. Some stand patiently on the bank, allowing the sun and the gentle river breeze to begin the drying process, a crucial step for the mud to effectively pull away impurities. Others are already moving towards the water's edge, but not for a dive. The tools of this trade are remarkably simple, almost elegantly so. There's no complex plumbing or intricate machinery, just what nature and ingenuity provide. You might see someone carrying a gourd, hollowed out and dried, perhaps with a small handle fashioned from a stick, used for scooping water. Others might have a smooth, flat stone, worn smooth by the river itself, which serves as a natural scraper. And, of course, the ever-present linen cloth, often coarse and undyed, used for more vigorous scrubbing once the mud has begun to loosen. It's a testament to how much can be achieved with so little, a stark contrast to our modern bathrooms brimming with countless gadgets and potions. You decide to let the mud dry slightly first. The warmth of the sun on your skin, now covered in this earthy layer, feels unexpectedly pleasant. It's like being wrapped in a warm, comforting blanket, but one that's actively working to refresh you. As the mud dries, it shifts from a dark, wet brown to a lighter, almost grayish hue, and you can feel it gently tightening on your skin. This isn't an uncomfortable pulling. It's a subtle, invigorating sensation, almost like a natural facial for your entire body. Imagine trying to replicate this at a high-end spa today. They charge you an arm and a leg, and it probably wouldn't feel quite as authentic or grounding. As you stand, letting the sun do its work, you notice the sounds of the river. The gentle lapping of water against the bank, the distant calls of ibises, perhaps the lowing of cattle being led to pasture. It's a world utterly connected to its environment, where human activity and natural rhythms are intertwined. There's a peace in this simplicity, a quiet understanding of the interconnectedness of all things. No jarring noises, no sudden interruptions, just the ebb and flow of ancient life. One quirky tidbit about ancient Egyptian preparations. While we're focusing on the Nile mud, they were also keen on various oils and unguents derived from plants like morina, castor, or even olive oil, though olives weren't native and had to be imported. These oils were often applied after bathing, not during. Their purpose was less about cleaning and more about moisturizing and protecting the skin from the harsh sun and dry air. So, while you're currently coated in earthy goodness, imagine the delightful feeling of smoothing a rich, fragrant oil onto your freshly cleansed skin later. It's the ancient equivalent of your post-shower body lotion, but probably much more natural and with fewer unpronounceable ingredients. As the mud tightens further, you begin to move towards the water's edge. This isn't a hasty dash. It's a slow, deliberate shuffle. As the dried mud makes your movements feel a little stiffer, almost like a suit of armor. You reach the point where the water just laps at your ankles. The coolness is immediate and inviting, a welcome contrast to the warmth of the sun on your mud-caked body. You scoop up handfuls of water, perhaps with a gourd, or simply with cupped hands, and begin to pour it over your mud-laden skin. The instant the water touches the dried mud, it begins to soften, to dissolve. The fine silt readily mixes with the river water, turning into a thin, dark slurry that streams off your body and back into the Nile. It's an incredibly satisfying sensation, watching the dirt and dried mud literally wash away, revealing the skin beneath. This is where the smooth stone or linen cloth comes into play. You might gently rub the stone over your arms and legs, helping to slough off the remaining mud and provide a gentle massage. It's like a natural pumice stone, expertly crafted by the river itself. Historians still argue whether the Egyptians saw the act of washing in the Nile as a purely physical cleansing, or if it also carried a symbolic, ritualistic significance. Given their deep religious beliefs and the sacred status of the Nile, it's highly probable that this daily immersion was imbued with spiritual meaning, a renewal not just of the body, but of the spirit, connecting them to the divine life-giving force of the river. It's not just getting clean, it's becoming whole again, in harmony with the cosmos. You continue rinsing, the flow of the water carrying away the last traces of the rich mud. Your skin, once covered in a thick layer of earth, now emerges feeling remarkably smooth, soft, and invigorated. It's a sensation of true cleanliness, a deep-seated purity that manufactured soaps can rarely achieve. The pores feel open, the skin feels fresh, and there's a pleasant tingle, a testament to the gentle exfoliation the mud has provided. Imagine, for a moment, the feeling of stepping out of the river, the sun now higher in the sky, drying the last beads of water from your skin. You feel lighter, refreshed, ready to tackle the demands of the day. Whether it's tending to the fields, weaving linen, or carving hieroglyphs. This simple act of bathing in the Nile mud is a complete transformation, a full reset for mind and body. And it's a daily ritual for many, a testament to its effectiveness and the Egyptians' deep connection to their environment. It makes you wonder if we've lost something in our pursuit of increasingly complex and artificial cleansing methods. Sometimes the simplest solutions are truly the best and the most profoundly satisfying. Now, with the sun a little higher, casting a warm, golden glow across the water, you prepare for the main event, the actual muddy plunge. This isn't a tentative toe dip. It's an immersive experience, a full surrender to the river's embrace. You stand at the very edge, the water lapping gently at your ankles, a soothing coolness spreading upwards. The mud on your skin, which moments ago felt firm and tight, now begins to soften at the mere proximity of the river's moisture. It's a precursor to the true dissolving. You watch as others, those who have finished their initial mud application and drying, wade out slowly. They don't splash or jump. Their movements are deliberate, almost reverent. The water in this spot is calm, perhaps a little shallower, chosen specifically for this purpose. As they step deeper, the water rises, enveloping their mud-caked bodies. You can see the dark silt beginning to swirl off them, creating beautiful, ephemeral patterns in the clear river water, like swirling ink dispersing in a glass. It's a visual testament to the cleansing in action. The sensation as you step further into the Nile is utterly unique. The water, warm from the sun, but with a lingering coolness from the river's depth, reaches your knees, then your waist. The dried mud on your skin softens immediately, turning back into a creamy, slippery paste. It feels incredibly smooth, almost luxurious, as the water gently works its way into every pore. It's like a giant, liquid embrace, erasing the boundaries between your skin and the ancient river. As you wade deeper, the riverbed beneath your feet is surprisingly soft. Not sharp or rocky, but a yielding, silted bottom that feels like walking on a very dense, wet carpet. You might even feel tiny, almost imperceptible currents swirling around your legs, the constant, gentle flow of the Nile performing its perpetual work. This isn't a rushed, frantic wash. It's a slow, contemplative immersion, allowing the river to do its job without haste. One quirky tidbit about the Nile's properties: the famous black silt, responsible for the incredible fertility of the land, was not just mud. It was a rich mixture of finely ground rock and decaying organic matter carried down from the Ethiopian highlands during the annual flood. So, when you're immersed in this, you're not just bathing in dirt, you're bathing in millennia of geological history and biological richness. It's like a spa treatment that comes with its own academic lecture. You lean forward, allowing the water to cover your shoulders, then your neck, until only your head remains above the surface. The feeling is one of complete weightlessness, of being suspended in the very essence of ancient Egypt. The sounds of the world around you become muffled, softened by the water, amplifying the gentle lapping against your ears. It's a moment of profound peace, a quiet communion with one of the most important rivers in human history. Historians still argue whether the concept of ritual purity, so prevalent in later religious practices, had its roots in these practical daily ablutions in the Nile. Was the physical cleansing inseparable from a spiritual purification, a way of shedding not just dirt but also ill fortune or negative energies? It's easy to imagine how such a powerful, life-giving force as the Nile could become imbued with such meaning. As you float, or perhaps just stand enveloped by the river, you begin the active part of the rinse. You use your hands, perhaps a small, smooth stone, or a wetted linen cloth to gently rub away the softened mud. Peels away easily, leaving your skin feeling incredibly soft and smooth beneath. The water, constantly flowing, carries the loosened silt downstream, ensuring a fresh supply of clean water for your continued rinse. There's no stagnant bathwater here. It's a continuous, flowing renewal. The coolness of the river permeates your body, a refreshing contrast to the outside air. You can feel your muscles relaxing, the tension of the day, or, well, the concept of a day in ancient Egypt, simply melting away into the current. It's a truly holistic experience, cleansing both the body and the mind. You might even close your eyes for a moment, letting the gentle current sway you, feeling utterly at peace. Imagine a world where your daily bath was also your moment of connection to the most vital force in your life. No complicated showers with adjustable nozzles or different settings. Just the simple, powerful flow of the Nile. It forces a certain kind of mindfulness, a focus on the immediate sensations and the simple act of living. And frankly, it sounds like a much more relaxing way to start the day than wrestling with a modern shower curtain. As the last traces of mud wash away, you emerge from the water. Your skin feels incredibly clean, almost impossibly smooth. It's a feeling of true rejuvenation, a deep-seated freshness that lasts. The sun now fully illuminates the riverbank, drying the remaining droplets on your skin almost instantly. You might reach for that jar of scented oil you brought, smoothing it over your still damp skin, locking in the moisture and adding a delicate, earthy fragrance. It's the perfect finishing touch to a perfectly natural cleanse. You feel ready, refreshed, and perhaps a little surprised by the profound simplicity and effectiveness of this ancient ritual. It makes you wonder about all the other overlooked aspects of daily life in the ancient world, the small, seemingly insignificant details that held so much meaning and provided such deep satisfaction for those who lived them. The Nile bath, in its glorious muddiness, is certainly one of them. Refreshed and invigorated from your muddy plunge, You now settle into the unhurried rhythm of an ancient Egyptian daily routine. This wasn't a quick splash and dash. The Nile bath was often an extended ritual, a cornerstone of the morning, much like the first rays of the sun themselves. You find a comfortable spot on the warm, sun-baked earth near the river's edge, perhaps a smooth, flat stone, or a patch of soft sand. The remaining droplets of water on your skin evaporate almost instantly in the warm, dry air, leaving you feeling utterly clean and dry, yet remarkably soft. The immediate aftermath of the bath is a time for calm. There's no rush to dress or hurry off to work. Instead, you might see others, now also cleansed, engaging in quiet activities. Some might be smoothing oil onto their skin, a luxurious post-bath ritual. Others might simply sit, basking in the morning sun, letting the gentle breeze dry their hair. The atmosphere is one of serene preparation, a quiet gathering of strength before the day's labors truly begin. It's a testament to a lifestyle where the pace was dictated by nature, not by the frantic tick of a clock. Imagine having this kind of dedicated me time every single morning. Your modern stress levels would plummet faster than a stone in the Nile. This unhurried pace allowed for a thorough and complete cleansing. It wasn't just about removing the mud. It was about ensuring every trace of dirt and sweat from the night, or the previous day, was gone. The combination of the mud's exfoliating action and the flowing river water provided a level of cleanliness that was both deep and gentle. You can feel your skin breathing, truly clean, unburdened by layers of modern products or environmental grime. As you dry, you might observe the subtle interactions around you. A mother gently washing her child, a group of friends chatting softly, their voices blending with the ambient sounds of the river. It's a communal experience, yet deeply personal. This shared ritual fostered a sense of community, a daily connection among those who lived by and relied on the Nile. There's a quiet camaraderie in this shared vulnerability and cleansing. One quirky tidbit you might consider is that despite the simplicity of the Nile bath, ancient Egyptians were surprisingly meticulous about personal hygiene, especially those of higher status. They regularly shaved their heads and bodies, not just for aesthetics but to reduce the risk of lice and other parasites in the hot climate. So, while your Nile mud bath is perfectly natural, don't forget the ancient equivalent of a razor to really feel fresh. Talk about commitment to cleanliness. The routine also involved careful preparation for the day ahead. Once fully dry, clothing would be donned. For many, this would be simple, lightweight linen garments, perfect for the warm climate. These clothes were easy to wash in the river and quick to dry, fitting perfectly into a lifestyle deeply intertwined with the Nile. You might slip into a simple tunic, feeling the soft linen against your freshly cleansed skin. It's a feeling of comfort and ease, free from the constrictions of modern attire. Historians still argue about the exact frequency of these full river baths for the average Egyptian. Was it a daily ritual for everyone, or more frequent for certain professions or social classes? While sources suggest a high standard of hygiene was generally valued, practicalities like distance from the river or daily obligations might have influenced how often an individual could partake in such a comprehensive cleanse. However, the importance of water and cleanliness was undeniable. As the sun climbs higher, the energy on the riverbank begins to subtly shift. People, now clean and refreshed, start to move towards their daily tasks. The farmer heads to his fields, the potter to his kiln, the weaver to her loom. but they carry with them the quiet strength and renewed spirit that the morning bath has bestowed. It's not just a physical transformation. It's a mental and spiritual reset, preparing them for the demands of their world. You reflect on the simplicity of it all. No running water from a tap, no hot water heaters, no intricate plumbing systems. Just the vast, flowing river, offering its bounty freely. And yet, the level of cleanliness achieved, the feeling of rejuvenation, seems profound. It's a powerful reminder that often, the most effective solutions are the ones that work in harmony with nature, rather than against it. It forces you to reconsider your own complex bathing rituals. Do you really need all those products? Or could a good mud and a river do the trick? Please don't try this at home, unless you live next to a very clean, very safe, ancient river. This unhurried routine also provided time for contemplation. Imagine the quiet moments spent by the river, watching the water flow, the birds soar, the sun rise. It was a space for reflection, a natural sanctuary in the midst of daily life. In a world without constant digital stimulation, these moments of quiet observation and physical interaction with nature would have been deeply grounding. It's the original mindfulness practice, wrapped up in a full-body mud pack. Stepping away from the river, your skin feeling remarkably soft and renewed, you begin to truly appreciate the hidden layers of benefit beyond mere cleanliness that the Nile bath offered. It wasn't simply about removing the day's grime. It was a holistic experience, contributing to both physical well-being and social cohesion. Imagine the cumulative effect of such a routine, day after day, year after year, on a civilization intimately connected to its primary water source. Firstly, let's consider the physical benefits. The gentle, abrasive quality of the fine silt acted as a natural exfoliant. We, in our modern world, pay good money for products that promise to slough off dead skin cells and reveal a fresh, glowing complexion. The ancient Egyptians had this service provided free by the river itself. This regular exfoliation would have kept their skin healthy, preventing blockages and promoting circulation, vital in a hot, dusty environment where skin ailments could easily take hold. Think of it as the ultimate all-natural microdermabrasion. And without the hefty price tag or the need for a recovery period. Beyond exfoliation, the minerals present in the Nile mud likely offered additional benefits. While not scientifically proven in ancient times, the Egyptians would have observed the soothing effects on skin irritations or minor abrasions. Certain clays are known to have anti-inflammatory or antiseptic properties, and it's plausible that the Nile silt, rich in various mineral compounds, possessed some of these qualities. It's like a natural balm, applied directly from the earth. You can almost feel the gentle calm it would bring to sun-parched skin. Another, perhaps less obvious, benefit was the thermoregulation. Immersing oneself in the relatively cooler river water, especially during the hottest parts of the day, would have provided significant relief from the oppressive heat. The mud, when initially applied, would have offered a cooling sensation, and even as it dried, the process of evaporation would have helped draw heat away from the body. It was an ancient air conditioner, a natural way to keep cool and prevent overheating in a climate where shade and cooling technologies were limited. Staying cool wasn't just about comfort. It was crucial for survival and productivity. One quirky tidbit. While not directly related to bathing, the Egyptians were also keenly aware of the sun's harshness. They used concoctions made from plants and minerals as a kind of early sunscreen, sometimes even including lead-based kohl around the eyes, which, while beautiful, was probably less beneficial for health. So, even as they bathed to refresh, they also took steps to protect themselves from the very sun that dried their mud baths. It's a delicate balance, living with nature. The social aspect of the Nile bath is also fascinating. It was often a communal activity, a time for people to gather by the river, interact, and share news. This daily ritual fostered a sense of community and connection. Imagine the quiet conversations, the shared laughter, the simple presence of others, all engaged in the same basic act of self-care. It was a natural meeting point, a place for gossip, camaraderie, and perhaps even informal business dealings. It was the original water cooler moment, but with actual water and much more mud. Historians still argue about the precise role of public versus private bathing for different social strata. While the Nile was accessible to all, wealthier Egyptians might have had private bathing chambers within their homes, or employed servants to bring water for more secluded washes. However, even for the elite, the spiritual and practical significance of the Nile as the ultimate source of life and purity would likely have kept the river as a central element in their understanding of cleanliness, even if not always in their direct personal routine. Furthermore, the act of bathing in the Nile instilled a deep respect and connection to the river itself. It was not just a resource, it was a living entity, a sacred provider. Every dip, every application of mud, reinforced this bond. It was a daily reminder of their dependence on the river, fostering a sense of gratitude and stewardship. This profound connection helped shape their worldview and their religious beliefs, intertwining the mundane act of washing with the grand cycles of nature and divinity. So, when you consider how ancient Egyptians bathed in Nile mud, it's not just a historical curiosity. It's a window into a more integrated way of life, where hygiene, health, community, and spirituality were often inseparable. It reminds us that cleanliness can be about much more than just scrubbing away dirt. It can be about connecting to our environment, nurturing our bodies, and strengthening our communities. It makes you wonder what subtle benefits we might be missing in our isolated, sterile modern bathrooms. Perhaps a little bit of earthy connection is exactly what we need. Having experienced the profound personal rejuvenation of the Nile bath, let's now consider the vibrant tapestry of life that shared your watery world. You weren't bathing in an isolated, sterile pool, but in a teeming ecosystem, a living river. Imagine the sounds, the gentle lapping of the water, the rustle of papyrus reeds along the banks, and the distinct calls of the various creatures that called the Nile home. This immediate presence of nature would have been a constant backdrop, shaping the experience in subtle, yet undeniable ways. As you float or wade, you might catch glimpses of life beneath the surface. Small fish, darting through the clearer patches, their scales shimmering in the filtered sunlight. Perhaps a tiny turtle, its shell camouflaged against the muddy bottom, slowly paddling by. The ancient Egyptians were intimately familiar with these creatures, knowing which were harmless and which, like the formidable crocodile, required cautious respect. This wasn't a fear-inducing encounter, but a shared space, understood and navigated with generations of practical knowledge. The papyrus reeds themselves were a crucial part of this ecosystem, providing shelter for various birds and insects. You might hear the chirping of unseen birds nestled deep within the thickets, or the buzz of a dragonfly hovering over the water's surface, its iridescent wings catching the light. These sounds and sights added to the sensory richness of the experience, making the bath not just a cleanse, but a connection to the vibrant biodiversity of their world. It's like a natural sound machine, but with live, unedited tracks. One quirky tidbit: while crocodiles were a known danger, the ancient Egyptians also had a complex relationship with them, sometimes even revering them. Sobuk, the crocodile-headed god, was associated with the Nile's fertility and power, embodying both its creative and destructive forces. So, while you're trying to relax, just remember that the animal kingdom's equivalent of a grumpy old man might be lurking nearby, keeping a watchful eye on his domain. It adds a certain edge to your otherwise serene bath, doesn't it? The riverbanks themselves would have been alive with activity. Waterbirds, like the elegant egrets or the long-legged herons, would wade gracefully in the shallows, searching for fish. Their quiet movements, their focused hunting, would be a natural spectacle, unfolding just meters away from your personal bathing spot. You might even spot a sacred ibis, a bird highly revered in ancient Egypt, considered a manifestation of the god Thoth. Its presence would add a subtle layer of spiritual significance to your morning ritual. Historians still argue about the extent to which everyday Egyptians actively engaged with or even named every species of flora and fauna they encountered in the Nile. While scribes and priests would have meticulously catalogued species, it's unclear how much of this detailed knowledge was common among the general populace, or if their understanding was more practical, focusing on what was edible, dangerous, or useful. The plants growing along the river's edge, beyond just papyrus, would also contribute to the unique ambience. Lotus flowers, floating serenely on the water's surface, opening their delicate petals to the morning sun. These beautiful flowers held deep symbolic meaning for the Egyptians, representing creation, rebirth, and the sun. Their presence would lend an air of tranquility and beauty to the bathing experience, transforming a simple act of hygiene into a moment of aesthetic appreciation. Even the insects, while perhaps annoying at times, were part of the natural balance. Dragonflies, with their mesmerizing aerial acrobatics, would hunt smaller gnats. Bees would buzz amongst any flowering plants on the banks. It's a microcosm of life, playing out around you, reminding you that you are just one small part of a much larger, intricate system. The sheer scale of the Nile itself, a ribbon of life flowing through a vast desert, would constantly impress upon you the power and abundance of nature. To bathe in it was to immerse yourself in this very power, to draw strength and vitality from its endless flow. It's a feeling of being utterly connected, not just to the earth and the water, but to the countless generations who came before you, and those who would come after, all sharing this same life source. So, as you step out of the river, feeling the sun on your skin, you carry with you not just the physical sensation of cleanliness, but a deeper awareness of the living world around you. The sounds, the sights, the subtle presence of other creatures, all combine to make the Nile bath a truly immersive and multisensory experience. It wasn't just a mundane chore. It was a daily dose of nature therapy, a gentle reminder of humanity's place within the grand cycles of the natural world. And honestly, it sounds a lot more interesting than staring at your shower tiles. Emerging from the refreshing embrace of the Nile, cleansed and invigorated, you naturally transition into the wider context of ancient Egyptian daily life. The river bath wasn't an isolated event. It was a foundational brick in the grand edifice of their daily routines, influencing everything from their work schedules to their spiritual practices. Imagine how this constant interaction with the river shaped their very being, their concept of time, and their place in the world. For many, especially those who toiled in the fields or worked as craftsmen along the riverbanks, the morning bath would have marked the official start of their day. Clean, refreshed, and perhaps with a light coating of protective oil, they were ready to face the demands of their labor. The sun, now higher and warmer, signaled the time for activity. Farmers would head to their meticulously irrigated fields, potters would begin shaping clay from the river's very banks, and fishermen would cast their nets into the same waters that just cleansed them. This integration of personal hygiene with the natural rhythm of the day is striking. There were no artificial lights to extend the day, no loud alarms to jolt them awake. The sun, the river, and the natural needs of the body dictated the flow. The bath was a gentle awakening, a slow transition from the quiet of night to the productivity of day. It created a sense of harmony, a life lived in sync with the environment, rather than against it. You can almost feel the absence of that frantic modern rush, replaced by a calm, purposeful movement. One quirky tidbit: ancient Egyptians also used various plant-based deodorants, often made from carob or frankincense, to combat body odor in the hot climate. So, while the Nile mud bath was great for cleanliness, a little extra aromatic help was often appreciated, especially for those working closely with others. Imagine trying to explain your organic, artisanal deodorant to your ancient self. They'd probably just nod politely and wonder why you don't just smell like frankincense. The bath's timing was also often linked to the agricultural cycles. The annual Nile inundation, which deposited the fertile black silt, was not just about growing crops. It was also the time when the river was at its most generous, its waters perhaps even more potent for cleansing and renewal. Those living through the flood would adapt their routines, and the very act of emerging from the subsiding waters would have been a powerful symbol of rebirth and purity. Historians still argue about the precise role of professional bathers or bathhouse attendants, if any, for the general populace. While the concept of public baths emerged later in other civilizations like the Roman Thermae, the decentralized nature of Nile bathing suggests that for most Egyptians, the river was their bathhouse, managed individually or communally by the users themselves, rather than through formal institutions. Even for those in wealthier households who might have had access to private bathing facilities, the spirit of the Nile bath, its simplicity and connection to nature, likely permeated their understanding of hygiene. Water would still be brought from the river, and perhaps even some of the precious silt for specific treatments. The river was the ultimate source, and its essence was revered, regardless of how directly one interacted with it. The social structure also played into the daily routines. While a pharaoh might have had elaborate rituals involving scented oils and servants, the vast majority of the populace would have shared the simple, direct experience of the Nile. This shared experience, spanning across different social classes, even if their daily chores differed, created a common thread, a collective understanding of what it meant to be an Egyptian living by the river. As the day progressed, the initial freshness from the morning bath might fade, replaced by the inevitable dust and sweat from work. But the feeling of that initial cleanse, that deep invigoration, would have carried them through. And for those who lived near the Nile, the promise of another refreshing dip, perhaps at the end of a long, hot day, would always be there, a soothing thought to look forward to. This routine highlights a fundamental difference in lifestyle. Our modern world often seeks to conquer nature, to control it with technology. The ancient Egyptians, however, sought to live with nature, adapting their lives to its rhythms and utilizing its gifts. The Nile bath is a perfect embodiment of this philosophy. A simple, effective, and deeply integrated practice that served both practical and spiritual needs, without elaborate intervention. It makes you pause and consider if we've lost some intrinsic connection to our environment by insulating ourselves so thoroughly from it. Perhaps a little more natural integration wouldn't hurt, even if it means forgoing your hot tub for a slightly murkier alternative. Again, just for thinking purposes, please don't try this at home. Having immersed ourselves in the tangible experience of the Nile bath, let's broaden our perspective and subtly compare this ancient Egyptian practice to other historical methods of bathing and cleanliness. While many cultures valued hygiene, their approaches varied wildly, reflecting their environment, resources, and societal values. The simple, direct Nile bath stands in fascinating contrast to some of these other fascinating, and sometimes bizarre, methods. Consider, for instance, the ancient Romans and their famous thermae, or public bathhouses. These were massive, elaborate complexes, not just for washing, but for socializing, exercising, and even intellectual pursuits. Imagine the grand architecture, the intricate plumbing systems, the different temperature rooms, frigidarium, tepidarium, caldarium. A far cry from simply wading into a river. While both cultures valued cleanliness, the Roman approach was one of engineered luxury and communal spectacle, whereas the Egyptian Nile bath was about direct, unadorned connection to nature. You could spend hours in a Roman bath, gossiping and getting a massage. In the Nile, you're more likely to be sharing a moment with a fish and a bit of beneficial silt. Then there are the Mesopotamians, who, while also living by rivers, the Tigris and Euphrates, had different bathing habits. Evidence suggests they used pitchers and basins for pouring water over themselves, often within courtyards or designated areas, rather than full immersion in the swift-flowing rivers which were often harder to access or more treacherous. Their approach was perhaps more about efficiency and contained cleanliness, a practical response to their urban environments, showing a preference for a more controlled, if less immersive, wash. It's like the difference between a quick sponge bath and a full-body dip in a natural pool. One quirky tidbit. In some parts of the ancient world, sand baths were a thing. Imagine being buried up to your neck in warm sand, which was believed to help with various ailments. While not a wet bath, it shows the diverse ways people leveraged their natural environment for perceived health benefits. So, next time you're on a beach, you could technically be participating in an ancient health ritual, though I wouldn't recommend substituting it for soap and water. Fast forward to medieval Europe, where bathing practices varied greatly. Public bathhouses existed, but were not as widespread or luxurious as in Roman times, and their popularity waxed and waned with changing social attitudes and disease concerns. Often, personal hygiene might involve simply washing hands and face, or a quick sponge bath from a bucket. Full-body immersion was less common, and sometimes even seen as unhealthy. This makes the consistent, full-body immersion of the Nile bath seem remarkably progressive and consistent. They truly were ahead of their time, or perhaps simply more connected to their natural resources. Historians still argue about the relative cleanliness standards of different ancient societies. While archaeological evidence and textual accounts provide clues, the true frequency and thoroughness of bathing for the average person across various cultures remain subjects of ongoing scholarly debate, often influenced by the biases of the surviving records. Even in the Indus Valley Civilization, they had sophisticated drainage systems and communal wells, indicating a strong emphasis on water management and cleanliness within their cities. While we don't have direct bathing in the river mud accounts like the Nile, their advanced urban planning suggests a societal value on hygiene that paralleled the Egyptians, though their methods might have been more about controlled water use within a city context. The difference lies not just in the methods, but in the underlying philosophy. For the ancient Egyptians, the Nile was not just a water source. It was a sacred entity, the giver of all life. To bathe in it was to commune with this divine force. Other cultures might have seen water as a practical necessity for cleanliness, but perhaps without the same deep spiritual reverence woven into the everyday act of washing. It's the difference between seeing a tap and seeing a god. So, while you've experienced the quiet profundity of the Nile mud bath, reflecting on these comparisons highlights just how unique and deeply integrated this practice was within ancient Egyptian life. It wasn't just a utilitarian act. It was a connection to the very pulse of their civilization, a gentle, earthly ritual that stood apart in its simplicity and profound natural efficacy. It really makes you appreciate the ancient Egyptians' ability to find luxury and health in the most elemental of resources. As the sun begins its gentle descent, painting the western sky with fiery oranges and soft purples, you find yourself reflecting on the timeless tranquility of the river bath, a ritual that has now become familiar. The heat of the day, once strong, slowly begins to wane, replaced by a softer, more mellow warmth. The air itself feels different, carrying the subtle sense of damp earth and evening blossoms, a quiet invitation to stillness. You can almost feel the rhythms of ancient life winding down around you. The distant calls of birds returning to their nests, the soft rustle of reeds in the evening breeze, the occasional splash of a fish in the water, all contribute to a symphony of peace. This is the moment when the river, having given life and sustained activity throughout the day, now offers a calming embrace, a final opportunity for quiet contemplation before the stars emerge. Perhaps you take one last, lingering look at the Nile, its surface now shimmering with the last vestiges of daylight. The water, which provided so much for the Egyptians, from food to transport to daily cleansing, now simply reflects the vastness of the sky. It's a reminder of the consistent, unwavering presence of nature, a force that transcends the fleeting concerns of human life. Historians still argue about the precise emotional or psychological impact of these daily rituals on the ancient Egyptians. Did this constant connection to the river foster a unique sense of calm and resilience in the face of life's challenges? It's easy to imagine how such a grounding practice could provide a profound sense of well-being, a daily reset for both body and mind. The feeling of your skin, still soft and smooth from the mud bath, is a gentle reminder of the simple effectiveness of nature's remedies. There's no harshness, no lingering chemical scent, just the pure sensation of being clean and refreshed by the earth itself. It's a feeling of contentment, a quiet satisfaction that comes from being truly at peace with your physical self and your surroundings. One quirky tidbit about ancient Egyptian nights: they often used oil lamps, fueled by castor oil or sesame oil, to provide light after sunset. The soft, flickering glow of these lamps would have cast dancing shadows, creating an intimate, cozy atmosphere, perfect for quiet reflection after a day spent under the brilliant sun. Imagine the gentle crackle of the wick, the faint, warm scent of the oil, as you settle in for the night. As darkness begins to truly settle, the stars, one by one, begin to prick through the deepening twilight. The Egyptians, without the light pollution of modern cities, would have seen an incredibly vibrant night sky, a swirling canvas of constellations that guided their beliefs and their navigation. The Nile, stretching like a dark, silver ribbon beneath this celestial display, would have provided a perfect vantage point for quiet stargazing, a moment of profound connection to the cosmos. You drift deeper into this twilight scene, the gentle hum of ancient life fading into the soft background. The air cools, a comforting blanket after the day's warmth. The subtle sounds of the river, the rustling of the reeds, the distant croak of a frog, these become your lullaby, a natural symphony designed to ease you into slumber. There's a profound stillness, a sense of timelessness that permeates the air. This final moment by the river, after the day's activities and cleansing rituals are complete, offers a chance for deep rest. The body is clean, the mind is calm, and the spirit is connected to the enduring power of the Nile. It's a perfect ending to an ancient day, a gentle surrender to the restorative power of sleep, cradled by the very heart of Egyptian civilization. The last light of day has now truly faded, and the river itself seems to melt into the deepening indigo of the night. The faint whispers of ancient lives, the gentle lapping of the water, the soothing presence of the rich, dark earth, all of it begins to soften, to blur, like a beautiful, hazy dream. Allow your own breathing to slow, to deepen, matching the unhurried rhythm of the timeless Nile. Feel the peaceful embrace of these long-ago moments wrapping around you, a gentle lullaby spun from history itself. Let your muscles soften, your thoughts drift away like tiny boats on a calm current. There is only peace, only rest, only the quiet, gentle unfolding of sleep. Imagine the ancient world fading to a whisper, leaving only tranquility behind.